People are asking, why do bad things happen to good people? We see it all the time. We see natural disasters. They seem to be coming with more and more frequency and sometimes greater severity. We see it happening all over the world. We see sickness. We see heartache. We see people hurting each other. Sometimes it's by choice, sometimes it's not by choice. Life is happening and life is hard. So why do bad things happen to good people? Rabbi Harold Kushner wrote a book called When Bad Things Happen to Good People. And this is a quote from him. He said, "We could bear nearly any pain or disappointment if we thought there was a reason behind it, a purpose to it." The human race is a species that seeks for meaning. We want to know, why did this happen? Why did this happen to me? What is this for? What's the point? And one of the biggest, most important questions we tend to ask is, why me? Or why Turkey? Why did that earthquake have to happen? Why did those people have to suffer? Why did some people die and some people were saved? Why are bad things happening? Why is the person I love involved in this huge bit of cancer right now? And I see this suffering and I don't see any purpose. I don't see any reason. And actually, the theological problem of trying to explain why bad things happen to good people, why suffering exists, why the world has all these hard things is actually referred to as Theodicy. And the real issue is, if God is all powerful, all knowing, and all good, then how can this be? How can all of those qualities exist together? And if he really cares, if he loves, if he's all good, and he's all knowing, and he's all powerful, then he could stop it. Why doesn't he? There's a Nobel laureate physicist, his name is Steven Weinberg, and this was a quote from him. He said, "If there is a God that has special plans for humans, then he has taken very great pains to hide his concern for us." And I know every single one of us has felt times when we're alone, when life is too hard, there's too much. Why is this happening? And what I want to tell you right now is, it's not personal and it's very personal. So let's talk about that. Why do I say it's not personal? It's not personal because every single one of us is going to need to go through hard things. We are here to practice. That's why we're here. That's why we need to work. That's why we get these drives to work on our business, to work on our relationships, to work on ourselves and our personal development. It's because we have an innate desire to be better, to become more, to become the very best of who we can truly be. If we never had any hardship, how much would we grow? How much would we stretch? Not much. We wouldn't grow. We wouldn't change. We wouldn't become better. We wouldn't become different. It's the hard things in our life that we have to practice and get better. That's what changes us. That's what makes us someone different. That's what elevates us. And let's talk about practicing for a minute. Think about if you are trying to learn how to play the piano. You want to try to learn how to play the piano. And as I use this example, I want you to think of an example in your life, something that you really tried hard, something that you really wanted to achieve, something that in the end is one of the most proud moments of your life, something that you achieved that you feel this innate, healthy pride, not an arrogant pride, but you know you did good. You did it. And you had to overcome things to do it. And I want you to think about that as I talk about this analogy. If you are trying to learn how to play the piano, every day that you're learning to play the piano, every day that you practice, after 5 days, are you going to get all mad and go, you want to know what? I keep messing up. I keep making mistakes. And so forget it. This is not going to work. No. The practice takes time, over and over and over. It's all the little things. Well, that is a very small scale compared to our life. Our life is something that is so beautiful and so powerful and so transcendent of anything else that will ever do. We are learning how to become more like God. And there's no way we could do that if we did not have to practice through hard things. I think of times when I have 3 boys, and I think of times when they were growing up, and they joke now about how I about how they were slave labor and all of those things. When we would get them up on Saturday morning and have them help us go shovel the snow at the neighbors, and they were so tired and they felt like it was not fair, it seems shallow to use that analogy when such horrible, hard things are happening in the world. But when that happens for my children, I can see the heartache. I can see, well, I wouldn't call it heartache for that. We'll talk about heartache in a minute, but I would call it the frustration and anger and the emotions that we deal with that are not positive emotions. And I knew that that was hard for them, but I also knew that they were growing through that experience. I knew what they were becoming, and I could see how they were stretching. I have one son who there was a girl that he really liked in high school, and they flirted and they just really liked each other. Everybody in the school knew that they liked each other. And we didn't want our son to have a girlfriend too early. They said, well, why can't we just be boyfriend, girlfriend? Because everybody knows that that we like each other. So everybody kind of thinks of us that way. And we talked about how, that's something that as you go through life, as you experience things, if you start to experience adult things when you're really young, then as you get to be an adult, you've already lost the excitement of being able to experience that then. And so we would have conversations about that, about what would be healthy, and he would talk about what he'd like his choices to be. And so, we would figure that out. But then one day he came home and he was devastated because his best friend and the girl that he had liked, who liked him, she now liked his best friend. Now for him, that was heartache. It was heartache. And it was hard for him to deal with. Am I happy that he deals with heartache? No, I'm not happy that he has to deal with that. But as a mother, I know that experience is teaching him how to grow. It's teaching him how to deal with hard things in a relationship. It's teaching him how to learn to communicate when he's hurt and when he's having hard things happen. So I know that those experiences helped him later when he found his true love, who he's married to now, with children, and life gets hard and there are hurts and there are heartaches. And I know that those experiences helped him learn and help him grow to become the kind of man who would be a better husband, a better friend, a better friend to his spouse, as well as to other people, and have more healthy and meaningful relationships in his life. Okay, so how does that relate to these terrible, horrible things? There we have sex trafficking, we have natural disasters, we have horrible things that are happening in the world. There was never a promise that this was going to be easy. Life is difficult, and there is no way we would grow if we did not have hard things. The hard things could be taken away, but think of anything you've ever been through. Now, I want you to go back to that analogy that I used with the piano, and I said, I want you to think of the thing that was the most powerful thing you've ever done, that you feel the most proud of. And I want you to think back through the steps that you had to go through to gain who you became because of that, and to gain the result that you had. It might have been in business, it might have been in school, it might have been with a relationship. And I can guarantee you that every single one of you is thinking of something that caused anguish, that caused either tears or felt like crying. You felt like you couldn't do it. You felt like giving up. You felt grief. You felt pain. You felt anger. Think of what all of those experiences and all of what you had to go through, what happened at the end because of what you learned. The hard things that happen in the world help the rest of us become more compassionate. It gets us out of our own lives and makes us go, oh my gosh, I need to go to Turkey and go help because there is something hard happening to other human beings. And there are people there who we love. People, some of you know people there. These things are hard. And that's why I say it's not personal, because that life is going to happen and hard things happen, we have to be able to practice. If everything went really well and we only had, if we have, let's say level 1 is the easiest difficult things that can happen, and level 10 is the worst horrible things that can happen. If we only had to ever have hard things up to level 3, that's about how strong our character would become. That's how much we could grow. If we have up to level 10 hard things, then guess what? All of a sudden, we now have the capacity. We grow and gain this capacity to become something that we never could have been before. Now, why do I say it's not personal, but it's totally personal? It's totally personal because we are here because God loves us. He wants us to be able to practice because He knows that as we grow through this and the trials that we suffer and the trials that we see other people suffer through, it changes us. And that change brings happiness. The changes in us are what allow us to have more meaningful relationships, to have more powerful communication, to be able to build a better business that serves people in a higher way. And let's face it, the reality is we feel pain and we don't want to feel it. We don't like feeling pain because it hurts. But remember that we hurt because we love. If we didn't care about anyone but ourselves, then a lot of this wouldn't be hard. We wouldn't care. So it is very personal because we are loved and we are cared about. And this is something that's going to change us. So then we think, well, yeah, but why? Why can't we understand better? Why can't we know more? Why aren't we given more knowledge about why all of this is going on? Because guess what? The fact that we don't know why and that we can't explain the why actually allows more growth. If we knew the reason for everything, it would be a lot easier. And I want you to know that it is extremely important that you recognize that pain is normal. That feeling of deep, profound grief does not mean that you have lost faith. Some people think that because they feel this deep grief and anger and they feel like they can't take it and why is this happening and it's so awful, they feel like that means they've lost faith. That is not what it means. All that means is that you are digging down into the deepest part of your soul and allowing your soul to connect with other souls who are in this life with us, who are suffering. And that's what that means. It actually is something that allows our faith to grow in a really profound way. I have some dear friends who are going through something terribly, terribly difficult right now. He has a very rare form of throat cancer, and it was very sudden, very fast growing. He's about my age, and his wife is one of my most dear, dear friends. And watching him go through that process has been one of the most painful things I've ever seen. And it's not even my spouse, my life. It's just people who I love, that I love dearly. And watching his wife suffer because he's suffering, his throat got so bad that he would start coughing uncontrollably. He couldn't stop coughing. He would hack, he would gag. It would get to the point where when he would cough, sometimes he would cough up a piece of his throat because it was so bad. And when he first found out, they gave him months to live. And he has lasted longer than they thought. But he is now on hospice and he's dying. And I want to read you something very powerful that his wife wrote and shared with people on social media, which posting on social media was in itself an act of love for all the people who are worrying about them, praying for them, caring about them, because they're in the midst of the most horrific grief, and yet they're concerned about the people who love them. And they know that people are hurting and praying and wondering what's going on and would like to know. So she took time to write this beautiful post, and I want to read it to you. She said, "The most alive person I know is on hospice. I hate writing this post, but there are so many people who will read this whose lives my husband has blessed. Please know that even if he hasn't felt well enough to reach out to you, he is so grateful to have had you in his life. He loves people and has always found his joy in relationships. So thank you to all of you who have helped to make his life happy and full. While his heart is breaking to leave all of us, he is at peace with the life he has lived. We are so grateful for all of your prayers, for his comfort, and for ours. We aren't ready to let go. We don't know how to prepare for this, how to stop expecting a miracle, but, quote, grief is the price we pay for loving someone, and the price is worth it. That was by Stephen Eastwood in The Healing Power of Grief. I couldn't say it better myself. And when you think of these horrible things that are happening that you don't understand, when you see people suffering and you have these emotions of concern and care, I want you to notice what it's doing to you, what it's doing to me, what it's doing to us as a society who needs to learn, as a society that needs to learn to love more and judge less. And that is how it is changing us. Don't ever forget the purpose of the trial. And now with me, don't just think different, be different.